Welcome to Masters of Regeneration Radio. Conversations with humans who dare to reimagine our place on planet Earth. Earth is changing fast. Evolution happening in real time. An intimate, circular understanding of nature and living systems. We are the land. The land is us.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 18 of Masters of Regeneration Radio. You've probably seen an explosion in our global obsession with plastic and the many challenges we need to tackle in that department in the past year. On today's episode, our guest is Anthony Rossi from Loop. Tony is the VP Global Business Development for Loop. They are a TerraCycle company, which is a global platform that enables consumer product companies and retailers to shift from a disposable supply chain to a durable one. And they do that in partnership with some of the largest brands in the world, which are, it turns out, the ones that produce the most plastic, which many of us are consuming if you're buying toothbrushes, toothpaste, shampoo, and so on. These companies are Coca-Cola, Unilever, Nestle, PepsiCo, Procter & Gamble, Danone, Colgate, and so on. This is awesome, and it's important. We'll go into all the details in a few. This is also part one of 2 episodes I wanted to do on the solutions we are creating to our global plastic crisis, in which we cover different aspects of what to do with all this plastic trash that won't decompose. Interesting fact from our conversation with Tony, 99% of the plastic that is on the planet, be it the oceans or landfills or rivers and so on, hasn't even been recovered. Anyway, so the challenges of our time, I think, all come down to one thing. It's a linear mindset, a linear use of natural resources where we haven't made efforts to understand the natural world and how it works, how nutrients and energy cycle, and how they must be put back in the soil. Instead, our efforts have been focused on controlling nature. That nature, which day in and day out keeps giving us sunlight, energy, and producing through all these biogeochemical cycles on the planet, everything that sustains us, the air, the water, the food, until it won't, maybe. It's then, I think, an issue of management. It's a matter of reconfiguring our understanding of how we live, how we consume, and how we understand ourselves as apex predators on Earth. We rule this planet until we won't again, right? I think it's a good thing that we are obsessed with plastic pollution, that we are obsessed with climate change and obsessed with redesigning our Homo sapiens understanding and management of natural resources. And we reconfigure that understanding to a regenerative model that is circular, that understands the cycles of the natural world, and where the number one overarching goal is always to protect the natural world, to create culture through keeping all of life healthy. So this episode is yet another example that shows us how it's possible to change reality and tackle very objective problems. We just need to imagine a different role for ourselves as managers or stewards of the natural world and imagine a new relationship to that nature. And then we, as usual, roll up our sleeves and get to work since there's a lot of work to do. Before we jump right in, and if you're enjoying our content, I would be so grateful if you went to iTunes or Apple Podcasts on your iPhone and gave us 5 stars and a great review. These help us grow and get this information to more people like you who are ready to support this global transformation and share important knowledge and the stories of the heroes of our time. This is episode 18 of Masters of Regeneration Radio. Anthony Rossi is the VP Global Business Development for Loop, a TerraCycle company. Tony has been with Loop for 18 months and TerraCycle for 7 years. Before leading the global business development team for Loop at their headquarters in New Jersey, Anthony was the head of global business development for TerraCycle, supporting the company's growth in 21 markets around the world. Before joining TerraCycle, Tony earned his business development stripes working in Toronto, Dijon in France, Budapest, and Vienna for some of the world's largest professional service firms and financial institutions.
Hi, Thomas. How are you?
Hey, Tony, how's it going?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Thank you for being flexible. Apologies for being a little bit late.
Oh, no worries. What's 5 minutes? If you don't have 5 minutes, then
Yeah.
what do you have, really?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm excited. I'm excited. This is going to be awesome. I'm so interested in talking all things Loop and TerraCycle. I mean, I don't know if you can talk TerraCycle a little bit, or do we need to focus on Loop, or?
No, we can do both.
Okay, cool.
I'm equally as excited. For me, I've been with TerraCycle for 7 years.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
the last 18 months, I've been pretty much focused exclusively on the Loop platform. But all of my time before that, I've been with TerraCycle, always on the business development side. But I started in 2012 working with TerraCycle in our Canadian office in Toronto, and I was
Yeah.
there for about 2 years.
Okay.
And then I was asked to take on more of a global role, and I moved down to our headquarters in Trenton, New Jersey,
Yeah.
where I've been ever since. And then again, there was some iterations, some growth, some changes in scope. And then 18 months ago, it was full board on Loop. So working directly with Tom, our CEO, to get this thing up and running.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big deal these days, right? Like you're launching May, right?
We're launching in May.
Yeah.
The deadline is real, and
The
right,
deadline is real. That's right.
the deadline is real,
Yeah.
and it's all all signs point to, let's get this thing up, running, and working. So it's been a heck of a lot of fun. It's been a really great 18 months for sure.
I'm so excited that this is actually happening with such huge brands, and it's a thing. Like the world is accelerating in terms of like the response to the challenges that we're facing for real, right? Like these are some of the biggest brands
Yeah,
in the world that you guys have put together through Loop.
yeah. They are the biggest brands in the world through Loop, uh, and it's kind of for us. We've been TerraCycle, and Loop is a TerraCycle company. It's essentially a corporate startup. TerraCycle's been incorporated since 2002, and we've always had the mission of we're going to eliminate the idea of waste. Right?
Yeah.
That's our goal as
Yeah.
a company.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not like we're a reaction to a new trend towards sustainability with packaging. And I think if you look at the last 2 years, there's been heightened awareness around the fact that by 2050, according to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, there's going to be more plastic in the oceans than fish.
Yeah.
And I think that really woke people up, right? We in our business saw a cataclysmic change when it comes to the consumer and the consumer's demand for more sustainable packaging. What was nice about our operation is that we've been set up and we've been doing this since 2002. So
Yeah.
in doing so, we've learned a lot. Our business today is much different than it was in 2002. And also, we've been partnered with Procter & Gamble and Unilever and Mars and Clorox and all of these other brands. We've been working with them for, upwards of 10 years.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
to make that transition to Loop, yes, was difficult. There's no doubt, because at the end of the day, what we're asking of our partners is to completely change the way that they do business, which is no small task when you're talking about companies that are worth tens, hundreds of billions of dollars.
Yeah.
So it wasn't easy, but the fact that there was this ingrained trust, the fact that they know um, that we can work with them to achieve their sustainability goals, I think that really allowed us to have a seat at the table, to pitch this idea, and to create it collaboratively. So it's been a really exciting journey. I don't think we would have been able to do it with the brands who are a part of this if it wasn't for our history of working with them for many, many years through TerraCycle.
That's so awesome. So just to give the audience a little bit of perspective, you let's talk about what Loop is, and then we
Mm-hmm.
can go back to what TerraCycle started doing. Because, I mean, there are two very important things, and Loop is like just a major step forward
Yeah.
towards
So
yeah, zero
yeah,
waste. Yeah.
if I may,
Yes.
I'm gonna flip it around. I'm gonna
Okay.
talk about what TerraCycle does and
Good.
what kind of our pillars of our business are,
Okay.
and Loop is a big part of that. So,
Sweet.
like I said earlier, TerraCycle is, we're a bit of an old company in this space now, working towards our mission of eliminating the idea of waste. And our biggest business unit still to this day, where we're active in 21 countries around the world, is what we call our national recycling programs. And these programs are all about providing recycling options for products and packaging that otherwise would not be municipally recyclable. So, again, if you make the comparison to Mars,
Yeah.
we partner with Mars Pet in a few countries across Europe. And we have programs that allow Mars Pet consumers to send back used pet food bags that otherwise would not be accepted in municipal recycling. They can send it to TerraCycle, and we will recycle those pet food bags into a new plastic raw material.
Okay.
So that's pillar one, right? Is how do we take products and packaging that are not municipally recyclable, and how do we make them recyclable? Pillar two is what we internally call our storied plastics department. It's all about how do we take this recycled polymer that we're creating
Yeah.
and turn it back into products and packaging. So a couple of years ago at the World Economic Forum, we, together with Procter and Gamble, launched the Head and Shoulders ocean plastic bottle that was made with 25% recycled plastic from the oceans, right? So it's all about how do we take that recycled raw material and integrate it back into either packaging or ancillary products. One of my favorite programs that we have here in the United States is with a pet food company called Earthborn Holistics, and we recycle their flexible pet food bags and
Hmm.
we turn them into dog frisbees. Like it's not back into the packaging because it's very
Okay.
challenging
Yeah.
to get recycled content back into a flexible package, but we can still make something that is circular, that is durable, and we alleviate the need to use virgin raw material.
Gotcha.
So that's been the core of our business for a really long time. That said, 2 years ago, Tom, our CEO, started to think, even if 100% of products and packaging are recyclable, and even if 100% of those products and packages are made from recycled content, which, to be very clear, is incredibly utopian. I don't think we'll
Yeah.
ever get near that rate.
Yeah.
But let's dream and let's say that we did. Is that still the best thing for the environment? And the answer is no. So that's where the idea of Loop was born. And what Loop is really trying to achieve is we want to attack the very idea of disposability and single use.
Yeah.
So if I had to boil Loop down into its purest form, it's a platform that enables consumer product companies and retailers to shift from a disposable supply chain to a more durable supply chain. And that's what Loop is.
And that's by changing the packaging.
You got it. So when you look at the Loop platform, all of the packaging in the Loop platform, including because it's a direct-to-consumer model, so including the shipping tote that gets sent out, all of that is durable and reusable.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So TerraCycle and Loop have partnered with the biggest brands like Coca-Cola and Nestle and Unilever and so on and so forth to
Yep,
create new forms of packaging for their products. Is that correct?
that's correct.
And then you go and pick up from the consumer the used containers, and then you sterilize them for and refill them. I would imagine something like that.
Yes, so very, very close.
Yeah.
So what I would say is the first step in this process is, like you said, it's re-engineering packaging to be durable and to be reusable. So we've been working on that for the last 18 months with a lot of different companies, and we're starting to work on that with a lot of new companies who've joined very recently. So that's the first step. At that point in time, the companies themselves will fill those packs and they will send them in bulk to Loop's warehousing facilities. We have it, in each of the markets where we're going to be launching. At that point, consumers would go on to the loopstore.com and they would have access to all of these old products and new packages. And they would fill their e-commerce cart with all of the products that they want to order. We have products in food, beverage, personal care, beauty, home care, and a few other miscellaneous categories that don't fit nicely into the buckets that I just described. So the consumer fills their cart with all these different products, and then they click checkout. At that point, we as Loop will fill that durable tote bag that I talked about with all of the products the consumer ordered, and we will ship it via UPS directly to the consumer. Consumer receives those products in the tote. They take their products out. They use their products just like you would today, whether it's your biscuits or your granola or your water or your shampoo, whatever it is, you use it how you normally use it.
Yeah.
Where behavior change starts is once that package is empty. Normally, that package actually belongs to you as a consumer, right? When you buy a bottle of shampoo right now, you are the proud owner of that bottle. You probably don't want the bottle, you want the content inside the bottle,
Yeah.
but in a linear disposable model, you actually own the package. And when it's empty, you would either recycle it, if it's recyclable, or you would throw it in the garbage. With Loop, one of the key paradigm shifts is the package is never owned by you. It's an asset owned by the company. And once it's empty, instead of throwing it out, instead of recycling it, you put it back into the very same Loop tote bag that it was delivered to you in. At that point in time, you can go back onto your online account and you can request a free UPS pickup.
Okay.
And UPS will come to your door and pick up the tote with all the products that you have emptied that are inside. They send it back to us at Loop. We scan in that tote bag, and there's two options upon checkout. You can either say, I only want to purchase this ice cream once, or I want to subscribe to auto replenishment. Let's just assume that you've subscribed to auto replenishment. As soon as we scan that package in, we know exactly what you sent back. And the next day, we are going to replenish all of the empty pack. So it's a subscription-based model, but it's not subscription based on time. You don't get a new toothpaste tube every 4 months.
Yeah.
It's subscription based on use. So when you send back something empty, that triggers the reorder.
Gotcha.
You are not going to necessarily receive, your shampoo in the same bottle that you had just sent back. but it may be my bottle that I sent back 3, 4 weeks ago.
Gotcha.
And then around and around we go for the consumer.
Yeah.
On the manufacturing side, all of those empty bottles that are sent back to Loop, we are going to reverse pick pack and we are going to aggregate until we've hit our partner's critical mass. Maybe 500 bottles, maybe 1,000 bottles. At that point in time, Loop will clean and sterilize that packaging according to the guidelines set forth by the brand. If it's food, by the FDA. So we clean, sterilize, and then we provide that clean packaging back to the manufacturer to be refilled and then re-enter inventory.
Got it. So it's changing. It's not only sort of like I want to go deeper into how the containers are made and all that, but before that, so it's changing this thing that I'm not the owner of the bottle. My aunt, for example, will save every single plastic container that she buys and reuse them at home, right? Because that's what she's always done. But
Yep.
for many reasons that we can talk about, plastic toxicity and other things, that's changed, and she now wants to use more glass, for example, right? But in this
Mm-hmm.
model, it's more like a collaborative thing where we're sharing, a bunch of consumers are sharing containers, right?
Essentially, yes. So
Okay.
I think when you get down to like I've talked about disposability, I've talked about the linear economy,
Hmm.
but what I haven't mentioned is that the linear economy and disposability has its virtues as well. Everybody wants to vilify it now, but when
Okay.
you look at
Oh,
advancements in the
interesting.
plastics industry, you look at the rise of the disposable economy, the virtues that it brought were one, convenience, right? It's really easy to live in a disposable society,
Yeah.
right? It brings time. It's simple. You can be on the go. And it made products more affordable. Like we have access to more products now than we ever have before. So when we're creating Loop, something that's really important to us is how do we create a circular, durable model
Hmm.
that removes the negatives of disposability, which is trash and garbage, while still valuing the virtues that it provides, which is convenience,
Okay.
which is affordability. So, yes, in Loop, you are engaging in a durable platform where there is no waste, but it's still behaving like a reusable platform. The only thing is, we are not asking you as the consumer to refill those packs or take them anywhere special.
Yeah.
We're going to do that for you, right? And so you can still live in a disposable society where the burden is not on the consumer at all, but the burden is on us as Loop, as the platform, and our partners to refill and create packaging that's reusable. So that's a really important concept to keep in mind in Loop.
That's such a great example for other companies that haven't joined Loop or that haven't joined a circular model of production, because how do you, I mean, you could show them that it is doable, that you can still be a profitable company and take on that responsibility and not put it on the consumer, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And what's nice about Loop as well is yes, when we look at some of our first partners, we're talking about Procter and Gamble, we're talking about PepsiCo, we're talking about Nestle and Unilever, and these big, massive companies who are able to influence and help us create this monumental platform. But it's open to brands as well. We have a brand, a natural brand out of Canada. There's still a very, very large brand in Nature's Path, right?
Okay.
But they're able to participate in this platform as well. It doesn't have to be only these mega conglomerates. We even have companies like Reinberger Nut Butter, which is a tiny company out of Philadelphia. but they're still able to participate in this platform as well. Cozy, which is a personal care beauty brand out of France. I believe there's 3 or 4 people, and they're able to participate in this type of program. Why that's important for us as Loop as a company is we still want to provide consumers with choice, right? We want to make sure, and I think if I'm being utopian and I'm thinking about what my goal is for Loop as a platform,
Okay.
is we want anybody globally over time to be able to live a durable lifestyle. And that's
Yeah.
irrelevant of geography. It's irrelevant of the types of brands and products that that person might use. If there is a package that is disposable, over time, we want that package to be durable. And that includes everybody.
Sweet. So if I'm a producer and I want to change my packaging, and if I'm a small company from
Mhm.
Utah or whatever, wherever, w will I partner with you guys to redesign my packaging, or do you give a manufacturer certain guidelines? How does it work if someone wants to partner with Loop or
It's a
wants
great
to?
question.
Yeah.
So on the manufacturing, yeah, on the manufacturing kind of, how does it work for somebody to be part of Loop? We are not designers
Yeah.
and we do not create packaging. But what we'll do and where we support all of our partners, both large and small, is it's advisory, it's consulting, right? We are going to guide them to make sure that the package that they are creating
Hmm.
works within the Loop infrastructure. So I always give this kind of ridiculous example. Let's just say you have, I don't know, mouthwash. You're a mouthwash manufacturer.
Gotcha.
And you said, "Oh, I really love this idea, and I really want to make my mouthwash package a swan because that just fits with my brand, it's my logo, and I want to dream big." Well, that's wonderful. We would say, great, it's your packaging, you can create what you want,
Hmm.
but we may throw some flags on the field, if I can use a football analogy. One, if you're making a swan, that neck is going to be really long and brittle, and there's a very good chance that either in transit or in use or in filling, that neck is going to break quite easily. So we would advise against that. Also, a swan is going to have a million twists and turns and probably a small opening. It's going to be next to impossible to clean and sterilize that to the point that we need to clean and sterilize that. So that's an incredibly
Hmm.
extreme example,
Yeah, yeah.
but you can see how that could translate to perhaps somebody creating a juice bottle, right? Early iterations of a bottle of juice.
Hmm.
Perhaps they were using sodium lime glass instead of borosilicate glass. And the weight and the angles of that glass were either too light or too aggressive that they were breaking, or they couldn't be filled, or it was more brittle than it should have been, right? So
Okay.
we're here to guide the conversations. But at the end of the day, all of the packaging that's created in Loop by our partners is property of that brand, and the
Yeah.
responsibility of creating that is on the brand. But we're here to guide the conversation.
Beautiful. And so, what kind of materials are we talking about? I saw this beautiful image of Haagen-Dazs, for example, and
Yes.
there's, like a stainless steel container that's designed so that the top ice cream melts earlier than the one at the
Yep.
bottom and all that jazz. And so that looks great. That's one example. And my
Yeah.
question
There's
goes
that.
to my question goes towards the idea that, like plastics in the last 100 years were developed because they're lighter and they're more efficient and all that, because we didn't know better and we didn't know that they were going to be so toxic and so hard to decompose and all that stuff.
Yep.
And now if we do this sort of like shared economy model, and that's this circular um, model where we share the containers, what are those containers made of? What?
Yeah. It's a good question. And again, for us, there it's about durability. It's about longevity.
Mhm.
That's the key, right? As we're creating packaging in Loop, our goal is, can this packaging be used 100 times, right? That's where we want to go with all of our partners to begin with, and hopefully well beyond that as we kind of grow. Like a colleague of mine has an Nalgene bottle. I think it's 9 years old. That thing's been used thousands of times, right? So how do we get that with all of our partners? And there are a variety of different materials to consider,
Okay.
right? If you look at metals, stainless steel, aluminum, these are great options. They're very durable. They're easy to clean. When we're talking about aluminum, it's very light, so obviously that has environmental benefits as well. But it's not restricted to just, steels or aluminums.
Hmm.
There's glass, but
Okay.
again, there's good glass and there's bad glass. If we're talking about a very thin, single-use glass, it's likely not able to withstand the rigors of the platform. So
Yeah.
again, it's about what's the weight, what's the thickness, what's the type of glass that we can use. And believe it or not, we even have packaging in the platform that is plastic, right?
Okay.
There's good plastics and there's bad plastics. If we're talking about maybe a product that isn't food, it's a cleaning product. Can we use Triton? Can we use
Can we use what, sorry?
Triton? Tritan. It's
Okay.
a type of engineered plastic, polycarbonate.
Oh,
Like
that's like
if
what
we're looking,
blenders are made of or something, right?
yeah,
Or okay.
blenders. Again, I'll use the example of a Nalgene water bottle because that's one that people would recognize.
Yeah.
That is durable. It's long lasting. It has properties that are really beneficial to something, perhaps like a automatic dish pod, like something like a Cascade that you would put in your dishwasher.
Yeah.
So plastic isn't always bad,
Yeah.
so long as it's durable and reusable. So again, we're looking at a variety of different materials. There's no one answer, but the spirit of the platform is durability and longevity. So even if you're using something like aluminum, if it's too thin and you can crush that bottle with your hand, that's not in line with the spirit of what the platform is. But again, that's where we as a project management team help our partners and steer them towards making decisions that enable durability.
Great. And what makes so good plastic versus bad plastic, you're measuring that based on durability or recyclability, or how does that work? I know nothing about that.
No, no, it's okay. Durability.
Durability.
Durability,
Okay.
that's because again, if we're creating single-use like a, a plastic soda bottle or water bottle is recyclable, but it's a massive problem,
Yeah.
right? So it's durability first. But
Okay.
then you touched on a good point. All good things must come to an end. And even the most durable of packaging will have its day where it needs to be put out to retirement. So
Yeah.
with all of the packages in Loop, we have to make sure that they're recyclable at the end. And that's where our history and our professional expertise as TerraCycle really comes into play. So again, with all of our partners, as we're designing into durability, we're also keeping in mind end of life. And when that package is done, we will recycle it.
Okay. And when the packaging is done, you will recycle it, meaning you will transform it into plastic pellets and make it into a different um,
If it's
thing.
plastic, yes. If it's
Okay.
metal, it'll be smelted. If
Yeah.
it's glass, there's a
Okay.
glass recycling process. So yes, we're going to recycle all of it so that it doesn't go to landfill. It doesn't go to incineration. It's not, biodegradable or compostable. It's built to last, and then once it's done, we will recycle it into something new.
Yeah. I like the fact that you pointed to the convenience for the user, because I remember being in the Amazon a few years ago, and there was a ton of plastic on the Amazon River, and I was in Colombia, and someone explained to me that, well, if you don't know this material is going to decompose for a long time and you're a native person from there and you've been using, say, a leaf for packaging all your life and you just throw it away in the river because it's going to decompose and it's going to become everything again, right? So you do the same with plastic just because you don't know. You haven't been educated. No one told you that it's going to decompose over a really long period of time. So,
Yeah, it's I guess again, convenience is a huge piece of Loop. We want people to be able to live their life in Loop. We want people to be able to have the most sustainable choice, also be the most convenient option. I think when you look at society, right, you have a percentage of the population who is very sustainable
mhm.
and will bend over backwards to do the right environmental thing every single time. But that is a small portion of the population. And I think again, just if I'm looking at my own life and my circle of friends and family, I would say that a lot of the time when you're measuring sustainability versus convenience, the average mass consumer will choose the most convenient option over the most sustainable option because
Yeah,
sustainability right now usually requires increased effort at some point.
yeah,
So again, that's part of the the platform of Loop. How it works is even if you never whispered the word sustainability, people love the Loop platform in terms of its convenience and in terms of the packaging is really nice, right? And
yeah.
they want to participate in that. And oh, by the way, it's also the best thing for the environment, but you don't have to hit them over the head with it, right? It's we're almost autopiloting the consumer where the most attractive option is also the most sustainable option.
That's amazing because, you're not, yeah, you're taking that off the equation and just like, as a brand and as a company, as Loop and as a coalition, just taking care of it and not kind of like preaching to the consumer that, because it's hard. It's hard as a consumer. I know I see it every day in most consumers. It's
Yeah, me too. And that's just talking about convenience and effort.
mm,
If you want to look at recycling, it's confusing as well for people who
oh,
want to do the right thing. Sometimes
yeah,
it's just hard. Like I don't know. I
yeah.
could be traveling in a new city and perhaps my, polypropylene yogurt drink in New York City is recyclable,
Hmm.
but now that I'm in, Detroit, Michigan, it's not, right? And that's just an extreme example, but there are so many other examples. Like my office maybe recycles this one product, but at home it's not recyclable. And I'm lucky enough where I live and I work in this space, so I'm very cognizant of that. But most people are not. So again, making this easy is really important to the equation. And if you extrapolate that to kind of what I said earlier on, our goal is where there is disposability now, there's durability later, no matter the product or the territory. When you build a platform like this, I think that's how you're going to get to scale. Because if we kept this just very niche for that small segment of the population who's already doing the right thing, I don't think we're going to have the widespread environmental impact that we want to have with this platform.
Yeah. And so as a user, will I go to, say, loop.com and it's going to be a market where I can choose all the brands, or how does it work?
Yes.
Okay.
So loopstore.com.
Okay.
And again, part of like where we want to get there, but to begin with, it's going to be small scale but we're going to hopefully grow very quickly. So it's going to launch in May of this year in New York City and surrounding area. So if you're in New Jersey, if you're in Pennsylvania, you can participate.
Okay.
Same with Paris, right? It's the greater
Yeah.
Paris area. We're launching in those markets. Then in September 2019, we'll bring Loop to London and surrounding area. And then early in 2020, we'll open Loop in Toronto and San Francisco. And then mid 2020, we're going to open in Tokyo.
Okay.
What's exciting is that the response has been so overwhelmingly positive that we're starting to have discussions around another major US city, countries like South Korea and Germany and Australia. So I think growth is going to come quicker than hopefully we even anticipated,
Yeah.
based on the demand from the consumer. And at the end of the day, as a consumer, we have a lot of power, right? Every time we buy something, we're voting for that product and what that product stands for with our dollars.
Oh, for
So the
sure.
fact that
Yeah.
consumers are taking a stand and saying, I want this, is forcing retailers, forcing companies to say, okay, if you're asking for it and you want it, we are going to bring it to you. And that's what's really exciting right now.
That is awesome, especially also with mega cities, like if you have 10 million, well, obviously maybe not the whole population is going to follow, but if you have millions of people around the planet just, choosing
Yeah,
to give their money to someone who's actually doing something about a major issue of our time, then, it keep
definitely.
it starts changing things.
And what we haven't talked about as well is that we're strategically partnering with traditional retailers in Loop. So in
Okay.
France, our partner is Carrefour, which is the
Okay.
largest hypermarket in France.
Yeah.
In the UK, it's Tesco. In Canada, we have one. In the United States, we have one. I can't, it's not
You
public
can't
yet, so I
say, yeah,
can't
yeah.
mention it.
Gotcha, gotcha.
But why these retail relationships are important is we are going to build on their core business, which is distribution and getting products to consumers. So that's going to allow us to scale quickly, right? You're going to see Loop durable packages on shelf in France with Carrefour. Like that's a really exciting development because that's where we start to penetrate the consumer in multiple different ways. Some people may hate direct to consumer delivery options. They want to go in store and buy it on shelf, and we want to
Yeah.
provide that durable option in that form as well.
Beautiful. So going back to plastic and TerraCycle. So TerraCycle uses plastic from the ocean and from other, do you have
Yep.
like recycle
We we
programs? How does it work?
recycle
Yeah.
we recycle hundreds of different waste streams around the world.
Okay.
Ocean plastic is a very unique one that
Okay.
that we started with Procter and Gamble 2 years ago, and it has only grown globally. But we also are one of, if not the world's largest recycler of flexible plastics. So if you go on to TerraCycle.com, you will see, I believe it's upwards of 70 different free recycling programs where you can send your non-recyclable packaging to TerraCycle to be recycled. That's everything from flexible plastics is a big one. So think of anything like in snacking, for
Yeah.
instance, like
Mm-hmm.
food is a very popular format, chip bags. But then extrapolate that to more complex plastic products. For me, one of the not trickiest ones, but one of the ones that's very popular is complex closures, triggers, pumps, right? Think of your Febreze nozzle, you know,
Oh, gotcha.
your shampoo pump if you have a bottle of Garnier.
Mm-hmm.
All of those, while plastic, are not municipally recyclable. So that's a big
Oh, I see.
stream for us as
Okay.
well. If you look at the personal care and beauty industry, a lot of that packaging is small, contains multiple types of plastic in one product. It may have a cap that's made from high density polyethylene, but the bottle is polypropylene. There may be aluminized layers, there may be nylon. All of that complexity
Mm-hmm.
decreases recyclability. So we collect those. But it's not just that. We collect some weird shit here at TerraCycle, right? In dozens of countries around the world, we collect and recycle cigarette butts, which are the most littered item in the world,
Yeah, I know. Especially in
right?
Paris.
Yeah, absolutely. Paris, Tokyo,
Oh my God. Yeah.
South Korea, a lot of countries.
Yeah.
Um, in Mexico City this year, we
Yeah.
launched a program in the historical city center
Mm-hmm.
with Trident to recycle used chewing gum.
Oh.
In Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, we have a program right now where we collect and recycle dirty diapers. So,
What do you do with cigarette butts? Sorry to interrupt, but I'm
no
just
problem.
yeah.
Every waste stream that we collect here at TerraCycle has a unique process, right? We handle each one differently depending on what it is, what it's made from, and what we can turn it into.
Mm.
So if you look at a cigarette butt, there's a couple components to a cigarette butt. The most obvious one is ash, loose tobacco paper. Those are all organic products that actually compost quite nicely. So in our process, our first step is to shred up all of the cigarette butts and start to separate the organic from the inorganic. Just out of curiosity, because most people don't know this, what do you think the actual filter in a cigarette butt is made from?
No idea.
Right? Most people will say cotton or fibers. It's actually cellulose acetate. So the exact same material that sunglasses are made from. That is what makes
Sunglasses?
up, yeah, sunglasses,
Is it
like,
like a
or any
fiberglass kind of
glasses.
thing?
Yeah, the actual frame itself
Yeah, yeah.
is cellulose acetate. It's actually a very high grade engineered plastic. So again, once we're able to separate those components, inorganic from organic, and we're left with a clean and sterilized cigarette filter, we are able to melt and extrude that filter into a number of different raw material formats, whether it be a pellet or a flake or something else. And then we will turn that new recycled raw material into usually industrial plastics, things like shipping pallets, railway ties, garbage or recycling bins, excuse me. Uh, so yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow.
every
Okay.
waste stream has a unique
Hmm.
heartbeat.
That is so mind-boggling. Just the thought that people most of us are not aware of all the chemicals that are floating, and flowing through the environment um, in a cigarette. Just on top of all the stuff that's added to the tobacco, then you're also inhaling through this like plastic fiber thing. Well, it's
Yep,
gross. Yeah.
you got it.
Yeah. Um, so that's fascinating. That is so precise. I mean, have you guys developed all these like new technology to do all these things, or is that existing technology that was
It's
there?
it's it's adapting existing technology,
Okay.
for sure.
Hmm.
It's most importantly, we have an amazing material science and material sales team, uh, who, once we've created this recycled raw material, they work with plastic manufacturers to integrate that recycled content into what they're making. And for us, that alleviates the need to use virgin plastics,
Okay.
right? So that's a huge investment, is because we don't want to just be a warehouse of plastic pellets. That defeats the purpose,
Yeah.
right? It's how do we move that into new products?
Yeah.
So that's where we invest heavily, is in the science and the technology. But the kind of, I guess, one of the dirty secrets about recycling is it's not always about technology. It's about cost, right?
Okay.
Why is a PET water bottle recyclable? It's because the recycled raw material has value, right? If it costs $1 a pound to get a water bottle and turn it into a PET flake, that PET flake may be worth $1.50 a pound. And that's what unlocks recyclability, right? Why is a plastic pump not recyclable? Because again, if it costs $1 a pound to get that plastic pump into a raw material, that raw material maybe is only worth 25 cents. So every time a recycler is recycling that material, they're losing 75 cents a pound, which
Okay.
is an awful business model. So that's one of the keys. So if you look at TerraCycle, how do we recycle cigarette butts? Yes, it's with the technology that I mentioned earlier, and it's with that process, but it's also partnership with Santa Fe Natural Tobacco, who subsidizes that negative economic delta and unlocks the recyclability of their products.
Very complex.
It,
Yeah,
it,
I
it,
mean,
it is, but it isn't. Like,
okay,
and when you actually think about it,
okay,
it can be quite simple. Like, I'll give kind of this example or this exercise.
okay.
If we are in a room together, right? We're not talking over Skype, we're in a room together, and there's a big pile of gold on the floor. Are we going to pick it up?
Yeah,
Probably, right?
yeah.
Because there's value in that material.
Mm-hmm.
If if it's a bunch of copper that's on the floor, are we going to pick it up?
Yeah. It
Right?
has value,
Maybe I
sure.
won't.
Yeah,
It has a lot of value, but maybe there's less people, right? Maybe
yeah,
you would, but I won't.
yeah.
There's value in it, but it's still effort versus value is just not enough to kind of float my boat.
Okay.
If it's PET, right, it's kind of less, right? For some people, it might be attractive. Maybe not you, maybe not me, but maybe my friend says, "Hey, I'll take it."
Yeah,
Right? If a dog walks in and does its business on the floor, are we going to pick it up?
we are
Probably not.
for another
Well, we'd
reason.
probably pay somebody, like if we're in an office setting,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
would
yeah.
have a custodian to come and actually take it away from us, right?
Yeah.
That's garbage.
Mm.
So that's kind of the analogy with recycling. When you're looking at products like uncoated paper, like PET, like aluminum, there are plenty of people, and those people are called waste management companies and they're called cities, who will gladly take that material because there is a profit. But for everything else that has no profit or no value, they are
Mhm.
going to find the cheapest solution to get it away from us. And that usually is landfill or incineration.
Okay. That brings me to the other question I had for you, which is what do you do when, or just to finish up the thought about recycling, is there a limit to the many times to how many times you can recycle plastic? Okay.
There is. It's not infinitely recyclable. If you look at something like metals, metals are infinitely recyclable, but plastics, almost like paper, uh, over time, that plastic kind of, let's say it's like a fiber, gets shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. So as it's recycled more times, it gets to a point where it's too brittle to recover and chemically, like the chemistry of it, to turn it into something else. So that's where, if you go back to my original example of, even if everything is recyclable and all products are made from recyclable material, it's still not the best for the environment because, again, plastics and these types of products are not infinitely recyclable, and we're still relying on extracting raw materials from the earth to create new products, new formats.
Yeah. And so once you've reached that last, step and you can't do anything with this plastic, what are the options? And what I mean with this question is, what do we do with all the plastic that's left over once, let's say, we've replaced a lot of the plastic that's being used with durable containers made of other materials? Can we transform this plastic into something else, or do we have to incinerate it with a special technique, or how does that work?
hmm I think the goal is, like, again, we have a huge plastic problem and we have a huge plastic inventory right
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
right? And all of that has been extracted and turned into a complex material. So we should value the fact that we've already done that. So for me, it's about turning those plastic products into its most durable form. Like, one of the things I love about the materials and the plastic products we make at TerraCycle is almost everything is still standing, right? If I look at even the office furniture we have in our garden here, it's 15 years old, right?
okay,
And it shows absolutely no signs of breaking down. What we've created is something durable and long lasting. And I
yeah,
think that's important. But I would challenge you even with this. We're so far away from having the discussion that we're having right now. Because if you look at the recovery rates of plastic,
Yeah.
I think 99% of the plastic we've created as humanity has never been recovered at least once. So we need, as a society, to get way better at recovery before we start having the conversation of, okay, now this plastic is not as good as it can be and it's all deteriorating. We're not even getting it back nearly enough to have that conversation.
Oh, wow. So you're saying that 99% of the plastic we have on the planet is still somewhere out there and we haven't
Yeah.
recycled it.
Yes.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's a scary fact, right? Like
Wow.
here, even in the United States, in a very developed country,
Yeah.
we're still like, I believe the EPA, the last report I saw, and it might be end of 17, early 18, we're not at or just at 30% recovery for recycled plastics, right? That's very, very low. That's kind of scary. That means 70% of recyclable, and I mean municipally recyclable plastics, are not being recovered and recycled right now.
Wow. Thanks for that insight. That's such an important insight. Where is all that plastic?
Oceans,
Yeah.
right? That's so again,
Mostly in the ocean
could
or
be oceans, could have been in landfills.
landfills? Yeah.
What I would say is when you look at the waste kind of industry, right? Waste is a very different thing in a developed country versus a developing country.
Hmm.
Like here in the United States, most of Europe, Canada, um, we have the infrastructure to collect this material, right? It's the problem isn't collection. It's what we're doing with it. When you look at markets like China, Africa, Southeast Asia, the problem is litter. Like people are just throwing shit on the ground. And if you look at the amount of plastic waste in the oceans,
Hmm.
90% of it, I believe, comes from 10 rivers in Southeast
Yeah.
Asia, Asia, and Africa, right? So the problem there is litter, and it's very
Yeah.
different than the problem we're facing here in a developed country like the United States.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
here in the United States, we have to think about, okay, what are we doing with this material that we've collected versus countries in developing markets? It's like, how do we combat litter,
Yeah.
right? How do we set up infrastructure to collect this stuff so that it doesn't wash away in the oceans?
Wow. It's so fascinating to see like all the facets of the issue, right? And how complex it actually is. It's
There's a lot.
yeah.
There's a lot to be done. There's a lot to be said. There's a lot to figure out. Um, and, and and I think one of the things that like we believe full like wholeheartedly in Loop, and we really believe that it is the answer that we need to provide, because again, we're talking about attacking disposability. Recycling is a band-aid on top of a cut,
Yeah, yeah.
right? It's not treating, it's treating the problem.
Yeah, of
We
course.
want to be preventative and make sure there isn't a problem. And I think that's where Loop wins. Because again, we can't live in a disposable society in 50 years time,
Yeah.
less than that, 20 years time. So again, is it the only answer though? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Um, our waste problem as a society is bigger than just one answer.
Yeah.
It's going to take a lot of different people and a lot of different industries, uh, all kind of pulling together to do their part.
Yeah. So just to sum it all up, I think could we sum it up into like the three like most important things? I think you just said one, which is the fact that we're shifting this single use and disposable culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then eh, I'm just thinking, as a consumer, what can I do? What are like the three, five most important things that I need to know and think about when it comes to
Oof. That's a tough, it's a tough
just a little
question.
challenge?
It's a tough question. I would say one, if you're in a market where Loop is,
Yeah.
we're providing you with a reusable option. So that for me would be first. Second is really think about the products you buy as a consumer,
Hmm.
right? Is there an alternative that may be better for the environment? And again, I'm looking through the lens of packaging because that's what I know.
Of course.
But you know, if you can choose between a flexible pouch or a durable glass jar, I choose the glass jar because I know that at its end of life, it's going to be recovered and the pouch likely is not, right? If a water bottle, like, hey, I'm not going to sit here on a pedestal and say that I live, you know, the purest life.
Yeah.
I buy bottles of water,
Yeah.
but if I have a choice between a bottle of water and a Tetra Pak, like boxed water, I will choose the bottle of water because PET is the most recycled plastic on earth, and cartons are incredibly difficult to recycle. So,
Oh.
as a consumer, educate yourself, right?
Hmm.
Do a little bit of research and see what is recyclable in my municipality, in my office, and how can the products I buy be influenced by that locality of infrastructure for me. The second, like another one for me is like a very smart millennial once corrected me and said it's not about the reduce, reuse, recycle. It's refuse, reduce, recycle. So do we need all of the stuff that we have?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the best medicine is you know just not indulging as we've indulged for the last 50 years.
Oh, for sure.
So
Yeah.
I think all of those types of equations really help. And then the last thing is kind of remembering as a single consumer, we have power. And every single day that we buy a product, we are voting for that product with our dollars. And it sends a signal to manufacturers that if I'm not buying this product, I am saying that I'm not happy with the format that it's in. And that will force the company to change,
For sure.
right? But if
Yeah.
we
Mm.
continue to buy, you know, K cups, we are sending a message to Keurig that this is a product that we want and they're going to continue to produce it.
Yeah.
So again, we have power as individual consumers, and every day that we buy something, we're voting for that product with our dollars.
Beautiful. Yeah, for sure. I didn't know what you said about the PET water bottles versus cartons or something like that. And that's a big issue in Paris. I mean, in Paris, I know that the water is really hard, and most people are constantly buying plastic water bottles for consumption at home because they probably don't have filters or something like that. Anyway, Tony, is there anything that I haven't asked that you'd like to talk about?
No, I think we covered a lot. We covered a lot here, and I hope that this isn't overwhelming to somebody who's hearing it for the first time. It's recycling is like an onion. There's so many layers to it. And I've been lucky enough to spend 7 years working in this industry,
Yeah,
and I learn new things every day. But change isn't impossible, and as individuals, we have the ability to influence change.
yeah. Yeah, for people listening, I think this is the idea of the podcast is to be informative and when we look at all these issues and food production as well, and it all gets really complex. So I hope this is kind of like breaking it down. It's been really informative for me, and I think I might be in that segment of the population that's a little more informed. and
Mm-hmm.
and there's a ton of stuff that I didn't know about, you know. So thank you so much for sharing all these great insights.
No, it's
Yeah.
my pleasure. Thank you for the time. It's been a wonderful hour and a half. You know, time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
Um, and oh no, hour. Sorry.
Yeah, it's been about an hour.
I thought we started at one. My apologies. No, it's been a lot of fun, and again, there's so much that we could talk about, and hopefully this is the first of many conversations, Thomas. I really enjoyed myself.
Yeah, thank you so much. Guys, this was Tony Rossi, the VP of Global Business Development at Loop. And so you guys can go to loopstore.com already or no?
Correct. Yeah, you can go to loopstore.com. You can sign up for the platform. I believe we're just over 50,000 signups already. So join the trend. We're really excited to bring something unique, something convenient, something new that is also amazing for the environment. So please check us out. And if you have any questions, we're here to provide answers.
Awesome. All right, Tony, thank you so much. Have a great one.
You're very welcome. Take care, Thomas.
Bye.